Alright guys, the year is 1991, and my favorite movie, quite possibly of all time, definitely my favorite sci-fi action movie, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, is released. Also in the same year, we see this, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the arcade game. And this game was awesome in the arcades, mainly because of the guns that you got to use. The guns in the arcade game actually had force feedback, and you felt them, you felt them shoot as you shot, and that was pretty unique at the time to get the kind of machine gun feel. Obviously any game afterwards probably had it, but in 1991, when I was 10 years old, that was the shit, and I loved Terminator 2, the arcade game. I pumped a lot of quarters into this game, and shortly after it was ported to the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. This game would best be played probably with the Super Scope 6. Give you at least the feeling of using a gun like it's meant to be. On the Genesis, you can use the Menacer, which is the Genesis light gun. On the Super Nintendo version, fortunately, you can use the mouse. So in this case, I'm going to use the mouse. And here we go. Let's get this going. So here's the Super Nintendo. Here, of course, is Terminator 2, the arcade game. And as I mentioned, we're playing this with the mouse. So here we go. Game's booting up. Of course, JLN brought it to the Super Nintendo. I believe Midway developed the game for the arcades. There's a lot of digitized graphics in this game. Here's an example here, just a little cutscene from the trailers for Terminator 2. You see the exoskeletons being built in the factory. I always like those little cutscenes, even in the arcade, just to watch them. So here's level 1 starts off. Of course, it takes place in the future, for the most part anyways.
Let's go.
And as you can see here, I am using the Super Nintendo mouse. I would like to try it with the Super Scope, but I don't have the Super Scope, so the mouse is probably the best way to play it. It's certainly a lot better than using the controller. So here's level 1 starts off. Like I said, this is a shooting, just a strict shooting game, basically on rails as you move from left to right. And you got your energy on the left, which is actually your life. That goes down, you die. So you obviously don't want to get shot at or have grenades thrown at you. The bottom of the screen, it shows your gun power. The machine gun never runs out of ammo, but it gets weaker and slower as that gun power goes down. And so there's power-ups to keep that up. There's different power-ups for the gun. You can get like fireballs where it'll shoot fireballs. You can get stronger bullets, and of course you can get the missiles or the rockets. There's a nuke or smart bomb that'll kill everything on the screen. You don't want to kill humans, that's one thing, and you want to hit the Terminators in the head when they get up close to you. Kill them as quickly as possible, because when they're shooting at you, of course, you're losing life. So as I was saying, there's different power-ups for the gun, and there's also the rockets. In the arcade, you shot the rockets by pressing the button on the stock of the gun, or on the rear handle of the gun, had a button for the missiles. With the mouse, it's just mouse button 2 shoots the missiles. Anyways, here's the first boss. You just want to shoot off his guns first. Then you go for his head. Then the torso, and you work your way down. So, yeah. Typical kind of boss for one of these kind of games. Now, as you can see there, the game just paused, and that's because it will actually, when you're playing with the mouse, it'll pause if you move the cursor up to the top of the screen. Obviously there's no controller, so there's no start button to pause. So I thought that was weird. At first it kept pausing and I couldn't figure out why. Didn't realize that if you move the cursor up too high on the screen, it will pause itself. So there's the first level complete. This game relies on a lot of digitized graphics and digitized sound. Arnold Schwarzenegger did a few sound clips of his voice specifically for this game. And that was pretty cool, you know. Having everything digitized at the time was neat to have the kind of photorealistic graphics.
Excellent.
This game was also ported to DOS and to the Game Boy. I think it was even ported to the Sega Master System, believe it or not, which you could use the light gun with. And of course the Genesis, like I said, which you could use the Menacer. You couldn't use the Mega Mouse. There's a lot of games for Super Nintendo, surprisingly, that you can use the mouse with. You can use the mouse in Wolfenstein, you can use it in Doom, you can use it in SimCity 2000, I believe Lemmings 2. There's actually a huge list of games that the Super Nintendo mouse works with. But unfortunately, not with the Genesis. Not really a lot of games that the Mega Mouse worked with. But you could use the Menacer, and the Menacer, I haven't used the Menacer, but it looks like it'd be a pretty decent gun. I have used the Super Scope 6, and it is pretty good. It's accurate, and it can track your cursor on the screen at all times, so you don't even have to look down the sights. You can almost just point it like a Wiimote. The only problem with the Super Scope 6 is it takes 6 AA batteries, and they don't last very long. I also had this game on PC back in the day, and I always had troubles getting it to run. This game was not written very well for the PC. It was just a very sloppy port, and fitting all the digitized graphics and sound in required a lot of conventional memory, and I couldn't get it to work back when I was a kid, and I forget where I got it or how I got it, but now this is the third level, and it's really hard. I can't actually beat this level without 2 players, and I'll show you why in a minute. It starts off, you get bombarded with the HKs, and I believe the Super Nintendo version, or at least the DOS version, like the arcade, does real scaling when things come at you. The Genesis version doesn't do scaling because there was no hardware scaling in the Genesis, so they had to redraw things like that for every distance. But anyways, this part is really hard. I think it's almost impossible with 1 player because you need 2 players. You need to be able to attack these HKs from both sides. It's just impossible not to. The truck basically gets destroyed, right? The HKs are attacking the truck, and you can't hit both. You can't get the HKs from both sides quick enough. Let alone worry about the Terminators. Don't even worry about the Terminators. The infiltrators there. Don't even worry about them, because it's hard enough to hit the truck. But anyways, we're running out of time. With 2 players, I can beat this level, and I believe I beat this game on the Super Nintendo with 2 players back in the day when I rented it. But anyways, there you go.